Hello, everyone. I am Renegade, along with my besto friendo, Yin. Say hi, Yin.
Hi, Yan.
That's what I thought. Along with a pair of people who basically run the Dystopia channel server. Honestly, we got Jai, who's essentially the assistant admin, and of course the front man himself, the self-proclaimed front man, because most of the time he was the only one really doing content for the Dystopia crew. Clay.
Hey everybody, how's it going?
So I wanted to do a simple thing instead of rerunning a Lufenia, because that can get really ridden into the ground, considering how many people post videos on the Dystopia channel. That's like a lot of Lufenias. Like, let's try something different for once in a while.
Sure.
And with the coming Lufenia Plus, which is essentially the beginning of a new era for DeFi, I wanted to talk to like a couple people who've been here since almost the beginning. I'm pretty sure you were here for way longer than a lot of people, Clay.
You mean, what do you mean being here? I mean, just as far as like playing the game?
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not a day one or anything, but I'm close. I started, it was right after Oren's character event and right before Garnet's character event. Not their lost chapters, but their character event. Like EX weapons didn't exist yet. Everybody's max crystal levels were 50. It was like the SAS 35 CP era. That was like the meta back then. That's when I started. So yeah, been a while.
Jai, when did you start?
I started playing D4 right around the time Emperor got his EX. And back then I wasn't playing religiously, but I was kind of playing off and on because I had like 2, maybe 3 other games that I was playing at the time.
I can tell you, me and Yin started basically at the same time with Ultimicia's Burst Banner.
Yup.
So you came in, I want to say that's like halfway through Lufenia, roughly, if my calculations are right, something like that.
Yeah, so we weren't around for like the legendary Cosmos and Chaos era where Aranea basically rolled Chaos era.
Dude, you don't even know. It was dumb, like just dumb. I mean, the only thing I could probably compare it to now, as far as like a more modern comparison, would be Terra. But even then, it's not nearly as brainless because in Lufenia you had to think about things like orb mechanics and whatnot. I mean, that was the main thing. That's like, okay, you can't just steamroll. You at least have to plan a little bit before you steamroll. With RNA, you could just steamroll. Swear to God, you could just press skill 2 over and over again in your EX and you win. That was basically what she did to the Chaos era.
Would you say Core did that when he became global first? That he kind of trivialized a lot of Lufenias?
I think there's an argument to be made where there's similarities there, but I don't think it's quite the same. Like, first of all, I don't think Core's reign is still happening. I mean, we don't really know entirely what's in the future. We can anticipate that he's still going to stomp shit, but we don't know for sure. I mean, it seems pretty likely. But I would say, as far as the Lufenia era goes, his reign of terror wasn't, for one, I don't think it was as long as RNA's. Because I'm telling you, it was like most of the Chaos era. She just crushed it. Core came in kind of towards the end, and it's not like Core is the team. It's more like you could just fit Core in anywhere, and he'll complement certain characters better than others. He complements everyone great, but if you really want to just stomp, I mean, it's mainly like a Core Terra or a Core Titus, a Core and like turn hoggers, or like take setups and shit, like counter stuff where you just double up on counters. So in a way, yes, but it's not quite as brainless as it was with RNA. You have to think a little bit more. With RNA, you really didn't.
So one of the big talking points I wanted to get to was, you mentioned in a video, like a couple videos, like people's impressions on the Lufenia era itself, like your favorites and that.
Yeah.
What was yours?
I can't narrow it down to just one. I'm gonna have to probably throw out a few. More recently, my favorite thing was when I somehow brought Freya to the right side of Tier 4 Transcendence. That was the hypest thing ever. I love doing that. As far as other favorite fights, I don't know. I actually really liked the first boss rush. I thought it was really fun. Just for me personally, because I got to use two teams that I've mentioned in videos and brought to plenty of videos throughout the Lufenia era. Like my first team won when Lightning came around, and this is after like Vivi got the LD and Kurosami. Like that was my first team that I was like, okay, this team is just rocking it, and they did forever. And then on that same on Boss Rush, the first one, we got Dark Knight Cecil's LD, which completed my like number two team that I used all the time. Also, that Cloud Kite's DKC team. So for that first Boss Rush, I got to run those two teams, and they more than proved themselves. I don't know, it was just really satisfying. So that's definitely up there.
What about you, Jai?
I was just actually opening up the game so that I can just remind myself. Because like there are so many different Lufinias out there, and I could literally just copy and paste a lot of what Clay said there, but I don't have the same units as him. One of the Lufinias that does actually stand out to me, or at least it's a fight that stands out to me, is in Gal's Lost Chapter. I think that's actually one of the first Lufinias we got, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, I want to say it's like the fourth one or something like that, like fourth or fifth. Yeah, it was really early. It's the second Lost Chapter Lufenia was Gauss. So yeah, it's up there. One of the first.
That one stands out to me because Gal is one of my favorite characters, and I think he's one of the first, well, not Lufinia, but first LD characters I got. And it was just great getting the opportunity to use him in his own Lufinia and not necessarily have to worry about the condition of the orb, because I think for me personally that's been something that I've struggled with each Lufinia, is there is an orb condition that you have to look at and think, right, who do I have in the team or who do I have in my roster that can work around this orb? And Clay can back me up on this because that's the first thing whenever there's a new Lufinia out. I tend to kind of like ask about and say, right, who's good for this particular orb, or who should I be bringing in a team if I'm not just core Terra and yanging it.
Right.
Yanging
which, yeah, I know. Yeah, yanging it.
I call that Terra Yanging. I call that tanging.
Yeah, the tanging, which has been really interesting to see, because like what we came to hope to achieve in Dystopia is a good mixture of possibilities for Lufinias, or I feel as if that's something we have achieved, and I hope that it continues on. Because we are getting a lot of influx of newer players, which it's always good to see who they want to use and who they have on their roster that could do a Lufinia. I think other Lufinias I really enjoyed, apart from Gal's, because I only gave you Gal. Let's see. Let's have a very quick look. Probably Serums. I think I'm pronouncing that correctly.
I think it's Kieran, but I've never played the game, so I don't know.
The
We know
Crystal Chronicles.
Yeah,
you like that? Really?
I actually did enjoy that. I know that you guys hated it because of the bears, and the bears were a really big contention, but maybe it's because I came to it later and I had a few more units that could easily smoosh it.
That's
but
probably
I was like,
it.
The bears is like, it's quite fun fighting against a bear.
I'm telling you, I don't mean to cut you off, but on release, you probably would have had a very different opinion of that stage. I'm telling you.
Wasn't the idea
bad?
I do not doubt that one bit.
I believe the original 10, since it was Kieran's, was just to brave damage them out.
Well, yeah, I mean it was more than that though, because you couldn't just like, all right, here's brave damage, because they'd get those thresholds where it's like, we're beefy and you're hitting ones, and they're gonna do that. I think they did that 3 different times in that fight with an orb that didn't have a condition. You had to just rush that one. So the fact that they had that mechanic on top of the rushing made it a little awkward. What made it even more awkward, if you ask me, is the burst character for that one was Sephiroth.
Mm-hmm.
And sorry, Sephiroth fans, I am also a Sephiroth fan. He wasn't even that good for that fight.
No.
I mean, really, he had his EX that would drop the Brave to 0. Like, that's great and all. But then he had speed down auras, which that fight, it's kind of bad to have that because you want them to act after you break them so that red aura goes away. So then you're kind of just stuck in a weird spot where you're stuck hitting ones for way too long. It's super awkward. Because I remember when I first did that stage, I brought just because I had already got him, I brought Sephiroth, I brought Gladio, I brought Strago, and I barely made it. Like I won, but it was like I was like a couple turns away from failing. And I was like, I uploaded it and everything, and I'm like, I'm not gonna go out like this. So I went back and I swapped out. I swapped out Sephiroth for Kuja burst, and I swear to God, dude, I shaved off 30 turns with a non-synergy burst, and it's Kuja, one that's been kind of viewed as one of the more underwhelming burst characters, like over the past year, and
Yeah.
he smashed Sephiroth in his own burst cycle, which I thought was strange.
Yeah, Yin.
Yeah.
What
Just my
about you, man?
experience, though.
Anything I could bring Shintoto to?
I think I can drink
Yeah.
that.
Most of my Lufenias recently has been nothing but Vaughn and Setzer carrying.
Can't blame you there.
Nothing really
That's very
stands
powerful.
out. I think my first one was Jack.
Yeah, that was the first
Yeah.
one I remember you asking
Yes,
about.
and that was Ramza Lightning.
Hmm.
Because that's when I started, and I re-rolled this game just so I could have everything for Ramza, because I'm a Final Fantasy Tactics fan. And now, thanks to Agrius, I have all them. More Final
There you
Fantasy
go.
Tactics characters when.
You managed to select all of the tactics characters. Well done.
And right now, I can't really name one off the top of my head because they've all just been. It's not really the orb, it's some other mechanic that gets me off guard.
Yeah, I mean, there's usually something. There's usually more than just the orb to watch out for in these. Usually, it's the orb and like there's
Yes.
something else that's usually a pain. Like with this, okay, with the most recent one, there's the fire orb, which not a lot of people fulfill. I mean, you got Vivi, you got Ignis, and you got Lulu. That's basically it for like reliable
If you
orb
want to be
coverage.
brave, you can
Yeah.
bring Jack.
Yeah, good luck.
I
Good
know,
luck.
right?
Yeah, but I mean, but it's not just that. They also do the HP shields. They also dispel you. They also, yeah, they do a lot of stuff. So I
They
get what
do
you
a
mean.
lot.
It's not just the orbs to watch out for.
I will tell you, off the top of my head, my most memorable Lufenia was the very first one I ever completed. And it was memorable because I brought a character that was really horrible for her own Lufenia, which was RCL.
That's a very popular take that she was bad for her own Lufenia, and teach her. I don't really agree with that, but it's not as simple as just you can spam her skills and not worry. Like you did have to really like think. But her kit does kind of handle all of what they do. It's not so
Yeah.
much her it's bad for, it's the fight itself. The fact that it's a dispel orb and they don't always buff themselves, which is a little that can be awkward.
Yeah,
Say
it
like
was
a little
awkward.
RNG.
Yeah, and it was awkward because, like, most of the time people would bring, like, either Balthier or Cloud. Cloud has the Crimson Edge weapon buff that can remove one debuff. Balthier is, like, he was a monster for a while. He was really
amazing,
solid.
especially for
Yeah.
that. He was awesome.
Yeah, because you can just remove one buff, like, one
Mhm.
buff from each and just raise the orb and just keep that orb under control. With RCL, she dispels all buffs, and you could get really unlucky in the middle of that fight
Yeah,
where they never buff themselves.
that's true.
But I remember when I completed that was my first Lufenia I've ever completed. And from there, I did Jack. From Jack's, as soon as I started getting my first high armors, it was just a downward slope for all Lufenias. I was just completing them left and right. Then came the fateful day of Kais's Lost Chapter.
Yes.
where I had no idea how to deal with this nonsense. So I go onto YouTube. I look up how to deal with Kaiser's Lost Chapter. Lo and behold, first video pops up, Mr. Airlines himself.
Oh, yeah. See, because I have a very different opinion. Like this is probably no surprise to anybody, but I love that Lucia because it just catered to everything I like to do. I was like, okay, cool, let's do this then. Like they need to fly, let's go. Yeah, that one was fun.
So I did it with that video's help, and at the end, in the description of that video was a link to the Discord at the time. So I went into the Discord to say my thanks, and here I still am.
That's okay. I do kind of remember that now that you bring it up. Yeah, that's right. That is when I first met you. That was right around that time.
Yeah. And that's when I
Okay.
met everyone else, and I just started hanging out in voice chats, doing a lot of nonsense. And I made a career. To be fair, I don't know how I've gotten so far off of just Ultimecia Burst Banner with not having everything prior to that. I've cleared every single Lufeni, including all the transit, all the dimensions end, all the abyss, all the story, just from that
Well,
point on.
and I do remember, and this isn't to like diminish your accomplishments like at all. So just
Oh
I want
no, I
to
remember.
add that caveat before I say this because you were kind of in a you were kind of in a bad position, and then you put yourself in a good position, but still a bad position. Because I remember because you started when Alti came out, and like you had her kit and everything, right? Or no? I don't remember.
Yeah,
Did you?
I had her whole kit.
Okay, and then I don't remember if it was right after her cycle, but it wasn't long after she came out. I want to say Terra came out, and I remember this. You went all in, like
Oh
basically spent
yes, I did.
everything for that, and you were basically broke as shit. But in retrospect, that was probably a good decision because I've said
Oh
this
yeah.
before. I'll say it again. I cannot think of a better investment for this era than her. My God.
Oh yeah, I
I mean,
remember we were all sitting in the voice chat. We're all hype. Let's all do pulls, and everyone got pissed at me for pulling 3 of her LDs.
yeah, I had to pity that. I had to pity her LD. Totally worth it though. I tokened her burst.
I pitied the burst, and I did not regret it. But I got broke as shit afterwards. But to be fair, I got
Birthday.
her LD and Bosch's LD on the same front.
Oh yeah, that's right. Bosch. I always forget that Bosch was part of that too. That when yeah, 'cause remember that was the Humbaba fight. I think
Yep.
that was the story chap. That was Act 3, Chapter 2, Part 1. I want to say
Yep.
was the Humbabas. Yeah, because then after that was Doulahan. That's right.
Everyone remembers
Which
Dooley.
everybody loved and then hated because of the global abyss, which was hilarious.
Yeah,
Like,
that
I
thing
mean,
sucked.
yeah, I mean, I can admit that fight was, I guess I'll say poorly. Okay, the fight itself was already bad enough, but the fact that the abyss went, you have to bring this crystal color and you must bring a spear was like, really? You're gonna limit my options for this toxic bullshit fight?
And they
Really?
made it immune to its own debuff.
That was the big thing. Yeah, no more cheese, and on top of that, here's arbitrary restrictions because we want you to pull from Mog. Like that's
Because
basically what that was.
I
And
showed you that fight, Jens. The
Yep.
dual hand
yeah,
where I took my bronze Yuffie.
you got to do what you got to do. I get it because I remember like yeah when that happened, just kind of laughing because I remember like on Facebook and everything before that, everybody was just doing the Yuffie cheese and was like, "This fight is easy. This fight is bullshit. Ha ha ha! Ha, I'm the greatest." And then Doulahan came back immune to his own debuff. Like, "What did you say, asshole?" And then everyone's like, "Oh God, oh no, this is cancer."
It was.
I honestly
Yeah,
do remember doing that fight in the Abyss.
mm,
And I think it was one of those days where I was just streaming in chat and people were in, and you come in, Clay. And I can't
yeah.
remember if I was having issues with it at the time or whether I was like managing it okay. And I must have got one-shotted and somebody said to me, "Do you have Mog?" And I was like, "Yeah, I have Mog." "Oh, bring Mog, bring Mog."
Yeah,
It was just like a whole chorus of bring Mog chants, and I was like, "Okay."
Well, yeah,
And I
that
think
fight was made for Mog, 100%.
Yeah.
I don't remember who it was, but somebody was really shocked at how built my Mog was, because Mog was one of those kind of characters that people, whether you got him or not, you didn't necessarily build him up. Whereas I got up and I was like, well, I've got nothing better to do with these personas at the time, so I'll just build them. So my Mog was hitting pretty damn hard in that fight, and I was just like, I goes to show what happens when you build a unit.
All right. So I'm gonna get to the bigger point. Going into Lufenia Plus play, how are you feeling, man? You feeling ready for it? What? Did we lose Clay?
I don't know. Clay, are you still there?
Uh-oh, phones are ringing.
He's buzzing, that's for sure.
Sorry. Getting a
That's
phone
okay.
call.
That's what it was.
I'll repeat it. How are you feeling going into Lufenia Plus, man?
Maybe
You gotta
start
love
with
it.
maybe start
A
with
little
Ian
bit.
on that one. Start with Ian and we'll end with Clay.
Okay.
Right. Start with Ian and we'll end with Clay.
Well, I know him.
He will be
It's
back.
just more content he's not gonna be able to do.
Come on,
What?
ask me the question. Let's go. I'm ready.
Are you
Let's
ready?
go.
How are you feeling about going into Lufenia Plus, Ian?
Oh, I'm so looking forward to content I won't be able to do.
There it is. There it fucking is.
I'm looking forward to looking at it, trying to make a team, and watching them die instantly.
I will tell you my feelings is that scene from Unlimited Blade where that's hell you're walking into. But I'm a hero of justice, so I must do it. And I will drag you in with me.
Oh, God, yeah.
So my feelings going into one, I'm kind of excited to see what the next level of power is going to be. Be it either on the villain side, like what we're fighting, or our own, because we have to remember, while Lufenia Plus is the next stage in difficulty, the developers are not going to leave us without an option of being able to achieve this new level of difficulty.
Mm-hmm.
Because what would be the point in giving a new level of difficulty if you can't achieve, like, being able to go through it? Do I think it's going to be hard? Do I think the power creep is going to be somewhat difficult? Yes. But I'm excited to see what we can achieve and what we can do going forward.
I am looking forward to it. Mostly because it's more content.
Mhm.
It's just more stuff to do. Because if you're at a position like me, I believe you're at the same position, Jai.
Sorry, I'm back.
Welcome
That's okay.
back, man.
You were asking about Lufenia Plus. I think I
And how
missed
you
the whole
feel?
conversation.
And how you feel going into it, man?
Oh, I don't know. I'm kind of, I'm trying to not, because there was so much doomsdaying about it. I'm trying to not listen to that stuff. I mean, I do think that, I think the past couple cycles have shown us, though, that there is going to be, at least temporarily, a pretty damn strong synergy bias where if you're not pulling for what's available, it might be kind of rough. But again, this is all speculation. I don't know. Like leading into it, I mean, at least for the first one, I know just on a personal level, I'm going to be fine because Zidane will be mine. So I'm not worried about that. But this is also just the very beginning. And I don't want to, make my judgment of the difficulty itself based on just my run with the brand new shiny toy. I don't think that would be fair.
So
So it's kind of one of those.
so you've got a kind of similar outlook to it as I do. Like, you're excited for the new level of difficulty, but you're also sitting there going, okay, all this doomsday speech it's not needed, it's not even required, because why would the devs give us this new level of difficulty and not give us something to be able to achieve that new level of difficulty?
It sort of. I mean, I'm not going to sit here and pretend as though these fights are well designed because I don't know. Like, I haven't done them yet. And I have had complaints about some fights with the synergy buy. I don't want to get into unit again. I really don't. But everybody knows how I feel about that one. And X Deaths, I think, was even worse as far as the design went for that, as far as the synergy bias goes, because that the most reliable way to uptick that orb was HP poison. One guy does that, and it's X Death. So
Yeah.
and for anybody listening, I know there's ways around it. I'm not saying you absolutely needed X Death or you absolutely needed unit to do those fights. I know. I don't want to get screenshots of clears without them to quote unquote prove me wrong. I'm not saying that they're absolutely essential. I'm just saying they will make your life so much easier. And I think that's going to be even stronger and even more prevalent, at least in the early stages of Leukemia Plus. Like, that's a lot of the buzz that I keep hearing. And I guess we'll wait and see. But I do think that trend is going to continue for at least a little while.
All right.
So I'll be prepared, I guess.
Do you
Prepare.
know
Got
that was
one
the
thing
same...
to add to that real quick is
Mhm.
if I can watch someone solo most things with lightning or some one character, there are some big brains out there that'll find ways of doing these fights with other characters. So
Of course.
that doesn't scare me as much as, like you said, it's when they release a new character with these fights. And like you said, with X Death, he's the only guy who could do that.
Yeah. And another example is okay, this probably isn't as prevalent as the X Death one, but the Sid Reigns one, I think you have to deal it's like 250k in a launch or something to like really up that orb. And Reigns is easily the most reliable way of doing that. Now there are other ways to do it, with proper setups and stuff, but there's also other shit in that fight you got to watch out for. So it's not like it's that we're just talking about the orb, but there's other things that are like, okay, yeah, maybe I can meet the orb condition, but aside from that, I got to make sure my team is strong enough to bring it home. Aside from just fulfilling the orb, like keep
Yep.
yourself safe and have the damage be consistent enough, kind of thing.
Consistent damage.
Yeah, which I think we'll be able to do. It's gonna take some more thinking and some more planning if you don't have the featured character. And I know that tends to be the case anyways, but I think it's gonna be strengthened at least for a little while.
Yeah. Until like probably midway through when we start getting like really absurd LDs and stuff.
And
burst
C90s.
pluses.
And yeah, if you look at the state of JP now, a lot of these fights are just getting murdered.
Did you see the one with have you ever seen? Did you see the Freya Kane one yet?
I've seen people go back and Freya Kane so much stuff now, dude. It's ridiculous. Where it's just they have one character on the screen because Freya and Kane are up in the air owning everything, and there's just one. Usually it's a Turnhogger like a Titus or a Terra or something who will just do an attack and then it rains spears for a while. Rinse and repeat. Like, there's a lot of that happening. That and another take I've seen is that Zach BT Plus kind of just trivializes everything. I mean, I haven't done research into that, so I don't know for sure, but people gave very high praises for Zach BT Plus in this particular era because he's apparently really good, which I'm excited for because I love Zach. I'm definitely gonna go for him.
Oh yeah, same. I like anything that I can tank stuff
People
with.
think I hate tanks, but not him. Not him.
Not him.
Yeah, because our boy Clay is the big proprietor of rushdowns and launches. Anything he can bring a launch, if he can't bring a launch, he'll bring Terry Yang.
Dude, whatever works, man. Like,
yeah.
if people want to know how to
Alexander.
Did I hate Alexander? Well, when Gladio was there, no. But when he was gone, yeah, I wasn't a fan.
No,
I don't know anyone that was like, I loved Alexander's Lufenia. Like, I don't know a single person that actually liked that fight.
That thing sucked.
Yeah,
that thing was weird because I dragged you into watching that fight. That was one of the nostalgia finias where I didn't have Gladio because this was before I could get Gladio's LD and stuff. I did it with Galef, and Galef could do it too.
That's true.
And he's like, and Yin's reaction was, no, you did not. You made the robot go into a logic loop. And yes, I did. Because that's the unfortunate part is if they didn't flag sacred crime as a attack against the party, it wouldn't make Gallup counter if it was
Right.
just something else.
And it just repeats.
And it just repeats. So put down the controller, go get a snack.
I'm also curious if they probably will leave it the same, but it'd be kind of sweet if they throw us a curveball. I don't remember the name of the stage, but I believe it's moving forward. I believe it's the stage where Garnet gets her LD coming out. That was 3 antlions that you fight in the sand.
Somebody mentioned what that stage is called. I'll just grab that for you.
I mean,
Intertwined
Please
fate.
continue.
it's
That's
not that important really, but regardless, it's when she gets her LD, and
Yep.
that fight. I'm seeing people just bring solo Yuffie, and because that fight starts out where they immediately drop your HP to 1. That's just what they do, in the form of a debuff. So I've seen people just bring Yuffie, just use skill 2. It applies that debuff first, so their HP is at 1, and then it attacks, so they're dead. And I'm curious if they're gonna leave that. That just speaking of cheese, it just kind of brought me up. I don't know if they'll leave it, or if they do, if trends are anything to follow, maybe they'll keep it and then have an abyss where there's Antlions and they're immune to their own
yeah.
debuff.
What is
Who knows?
Garnet's just on that front, what does Garnet's LD actually do?
Well, it's arc. I can
Yeah, it's
tell you
arc.
that.
And
So what is
anytime someone takes an action, it stacks up arc. And at 5 stacks, arc will hit the enemies for a lot of damage and battery the party.
Yeah.
so he doesn't necessarily throw anything back at the enemy or prevent the enemy from debuffing you then?
No, I think they got the idea from the Garnet in Final Fantasy IX when you could trans arc and arc would just keep repeating.
Yeah, I think that's where they
Right.
got it.
Right.
Which I like when they do stuff like that, when they base characters' kits and upgrades off of mechanics from their game. I always like when they do that. Like they did a good job with Cyan's LD, where that kind of does the same thing. Not the same thing as Garnet's, but you can tell whoever designed that loved Final Fantasy VI. You know what I mean?
Oh, yeah.
The one thing that I'm just going to comment on, because Clay's commented on it there, and I'm actually in a co-op run with them right now, is Zell's LD. The Final Heaven thing that he eventually does, now it took me a little while to realize how that works. He has to use the Mega Duel first, and then I think you have to do one other move after that before you have nothing. But you then go back to the LD move, and he does his Final Heaven attack.
Yeah, they
the
make
fact
you
that
dump it. They lock everything else out.
Yeah, I love the fact that he punches the enemy initially as he's running past them, and then comes running back in, really smack them, which is a nice little nod to his around the world Final Heaven and Final Fantasy.
I wish they would have included that animation though, just a real
I
quick
think that
throw the
would've
globe.
I
been-
wanted
There
to,
you go.
yeah,
I would
Yeah,
have loved
I
that.
think that would have been cool, and I wouldn't lie, I was kind of expecting to see that, but when he just kind of ran off screen and then ran back on, I was like, no, okay, that's fine by me.
Well,
All right. Well, I hate to cut this short, but I actually do have to go do real life
no,
stuff.
that's fine.
now.
We're at the 20-minute mark that I was looking forward
Okay,
to.
perfect.
So thanks again to Clay and Jai for doing a Let's Talk. I hope to do more of these in the future because, well, many Lufenia runs, really any time, just people from a community just talking about shit.
I'm down, dude. This was
Awesome.
fun. We'll do this again.
Yep. So I am Renegade. That is it.
Woo.
Along with Clay and Jai. Have a nice day, everyone.
Bye-bye.
Take care, guys.